So whenever you guys are ready, feel free.
Right. The 19th Amendment was passed in 1920, giving women the right to vote.
After the amendment was passed, only 1 in 3 women actually voted.
The League of Women Voters was formed to help encourage women to take responsibility to vote.
Today, over half of eligible women vote in public elections, and some even run for office. Our story begins in 1924 at the convention for the League of Women Voters.
Okay, everybody, please take a seat.
We appreciate that everyone took the time to join us today for the 4th annual convention of the League of Women Voters. As you may know, I am Karen Champicat, founder of the League of Women Voters, and this is Maud Wood Park, the president of the League of Women Voters.
We have come a long ways to get to where we are today. For 80 years, women have fought for the right to vote. Even after the 19th Amendment was passed, only 1 in 3 women took the responsibility to vote.
That is why we have formed the League of Women Voters to encourage women to use a newfound right to make a real difference in the way government and even society works. As I once said, in the adjustment of the new order of things, we women demand an equal voice. We shall accept nothing less. But as you know, this fight didn't start with us.
Pause. She goes on about this for a while, but due to time constraints, I'm going to summarize some of it. Here she talks about how women were treated like property, how fathers essentially sold their daughters to husbands. Husbands owned wives' land, money, and belongings. It was the wife's job to take care of the children and clean the house, while the men's job was to work. There was little question of it. No one would dare speak up until 1848. Play.
First Women's Right Convention took place in 1848. This was the first time that women came together to fight for suffrage. Here, the National Women's Suffrage Association and the American Women's Suffrage Association were formed. These organizations began the fight for suffrage. Later, they joined forces to create the National Women's Suffrage Association, the National American Women's Suffrage Association.
Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton helped form the National Women's Suffrage Association. Susan B. Anthony drafted the first draft of the 19th Amendment in 1978. It passed 41 years later and is known as the Susan B. Anthony Amendment.
Susan B. Anthony was a dear friend and mentor to me. She helped me become what I am today. It's a tragedy that she passed before the amendment was. She fought all her life for suffrage, but never gained it herself.
Finally, in 1920, after 80 years of fighting, women got the right to vote.
But in New York, only 1 in 3 women actually voted, compared to twice that number of men who voted.
There are many reasons why women won't vote. Women don't have access to a lot of resources.
And women haven't voted before. Most women don't know how to vote.
That is why we have formed the League of Women Voters.
Yes, our purpose is to encourage women to take responsibility to vote. We gather resources so that voters can access the best information on voting topics. We conduct studies on political subjects. These studies are unbiased so that voters can decide for themselves what they believe.
Let's fast forward through this next part. Here we go. Play.
Although the number of women voters haven't changed much, they have changed in spirit. Before, there wasn't even a question whether or not to vote. The answer was always no. We have opened up so many new conversations to people.
We will. Sorry. And we as a league will help. And we as a league and the people will help women grow. We will grow. We already have 24 state leagues and 15 city leagues across the country. So don't lose hope, my friends, for I believe soon more women will vote.
So how do you think it went?
Well, but I think we forgot to mention a few things.
Oh, and what is that?
Maybe how women's suffrage impacted other women's rights. Now women can vote for fairer laws, and job owners will treat us with more respect because we have power.
Yes, I can already see more ads asking for women employees. So what do you think we should change for next time?
Personally, I think we should have a snack bowl.
And the League of Women Voters is still around today, providing resources for men and women across the country.
We have succeeded. In 2008, there were 60.4% of women voting, even more than men.
Even more than that, there are women running for office and even president. 20% of Senate is female now.
The 1900s was a time of change all across the world. People were fighting for equal rights, for women's rights, for African American rights, for equal employment, for equal suffrage.
Only a few decades after the suffrage movement, people like Rosa Parks or Martin Luther King fought against segregation.
So remember, where it may be your right to vote, it is your responsibility to use that right. We have worked so hard to get you that right. It's the least you can do to take responsibility to use that right.
In the words of Carrie Chapman Catt, to the wrongs that need resistance, to the rights that need assistance, to the future in the distance, give yourself.
Nice job, that was really great.
Yeah, it was. You did a good job.
So we'll ask you a few questions here, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I'll just start off by asking, how did you pick this topic?
Well, I thought of it when I was in the car talking to my dad about rights and responsibilities. And he suggested the idea of voting, how voting is your right, but it's your responsibility to vote.
And we both had very strong feelings about how women's rights back then.
And tell me a little bit about how the whole performance came together. How did you pick the characters that you were going to pick, and how did you write the script?
Well, we did a lot of research, and we couldn't do Susan B. Anthony because, like,
Yeah, we
the
were going to
men-
do Susan B.
Yeah.
Anthony, but she was dead.
dead before the movie was passed. So that wouldn't really help us out. So we decided to do Carrie Chapman Catt and Maud Wood Park.
Because Carrie Chapman Catt was the founder, and Maud Wood Park was the president at
Yeah.
that time period.
And they had very big roles in it, like
Tell me a little about the costumes that you guys have here. How did you pick those costumes out?
Okay, well, this one we found in our storage closet for costumes at our school. And I just found this by rummaging through my closet.
Oh, you had it on hand.
Yeah.
Very good. So talk to me about the research here. I saw that you've got a couple of electronic library websites in here, a few books, some that look like they're written by Carrie Chapman Catt. How did you come across these sources?
Well, I think it really started when we were looking through the League of Women Voters website, and that's where we found the president of the St. Paul League, and we got to interview her, and that's where it started. From there, we sort of just tried to
look for more information.
look up on the library's website.
And then some of the helpers at OWL gave us some books that would help us.
yes.
And then after that, we sort of were like, okay, so let's find out more about so we learned information, and then based on that, we had to get other books to help us with that, to dig deep.
What would you say was the most useful source that you found?
Well, there's two of them. The interview I talked about with the president of
That
the.
was really helpful, seeing it, actually hearing what they said.
Also, we found some books that Susan gave us. Very helpful. It included documents from the League of Women Voters itself. So that was very helpful.
So how hard is it to get an appointment with the president?
I thought it would be harder than it really was. I just emailed her can we maybe set up an interview sometime? She said, I'm free from here to here whenever it works for you. She came over to the school pretty
That would have been exciting.
How much did you know about the League of Women Voters before doing this project?
We didn't even know what it was.
I didn't even know what it was like. I didn't even know that it existed. So, but yeah.
So after doing this project, what would you say is the most effective thing that the league did to help improve voting rates?
Well, I think that just like sort of sets an example saying you could vote and you should vote. And that sort of led the way for.
Yeah, and I think back then women were very like cautious of what husbands would think and men, so they needed sort of someone to like show them how to do it, and that's sort of where the League of Women Voters came from.
Anything else?
I think I did have a few questions while you guys were going, but before you summarized it up, and as you summarized, you answered all the questions I had.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you guys think we should know?
Yeah.
Excellent.
You guys did a great job.
Great work.
Thanks.
Thank you.